Hello, this is part 5 in a 14-part series of tutorial videos on the charts of rock and roll musicians, and in this video we are doing Grace Slick. We will be looking at harmonic charts. If you're not familiar with harmonic charts, I have a link to a tutorial video on harmonic charts. If you want to see the links to all of the videos in the series, here's a link at the bottom of this slide to the first part of this 14-part series that has links to all of them. Let's look at Grace Slick and see what's going on in her chart. Well, here's her birth chart. By the way, Grace Slick was a singer for Jefferson Airplane and other groups. And so she was one of these powerful, intense rock musicians in those days in rock and roll. And in her chart, we don't have to go to vibrational astrology to get some idea of what's going on. Sometimes it just shows up. She's got the, right there in the birth chart. This is her birth chart. Venus and Uranus are opposition with a 1-minute orb, and they're right on the ascendant-descendant axis, within less than half a degree of the ascendant-descendant axis. So there you have it, my friends. This is a person who is Venus-Uranus angular with a 1-minute orb. So she's electric, she's spontaneous, she's music and concern here. If you're an astrologer, Venus, Uranus, you're concerned about early pregnancy, one-night stands, that breakups and so on that are unfulfilling, are all possibilities. This is all a big part of her life, and it just flat out makes clear sense. Now, where the vibrational astrology comes in is why did it manifest specifically as music, and also notice the 1-minute orb means that this is going to stay within orb in higher and higher harmonics. So why does it take the form specifically of rock music? How do we get these details? But using just your basic astrology, and you can see the Scorpio rising, this is pretty clear. So sometimes things show up, right from the beginning. But the vibrational astrology is going to help us see more of the details of what's going on with her life. And here's her fifth harmonic chart. We want to look at 5, 11, 55. These are some of the really important charts for rock music. And what do we see in the fifth harmonic chart? The same exact kind of pattern that we saw in the 11th and 55th harmonic charts of the other musicians is here in the fifth. The Pluto combines with Uranus, and it's opposite Venus. So now we know that she's got to play music. She's got to do something electrical and spontaneously creative. Venus, Uranus, and Pluto in the fifth. It doesn't have the electricity and complete restlessness of 11, so we actually don't know yet that she's as intensely rock and roll as she is, but we know she's got to play music, she's got to dance, she's and also the concern about intense sexuality and so on, with this being right on the ascendant-descendant axis, we're going to suspect that as well. But again, we're seeing the same pattern. Venus, Uranus, Pluto showing up in either the 5th, 11th, or 55th harmonic chart over and over and over again. Now, let's look at the 11th harmonic chart, because we're expecting that there might be something in either the 11th or 55th harmonic chart. And look what happens. The Venus-Uranus, because it's so exact in the natal chart, stays within orb in these harmonic charts, and we get exact sextile and trine from Mars. The orbs are incredibly small, under half a degree orbs. So we've got Mars coming in, giving the passion, what happens in her life. We're expecting high sexuality, very intense, and that very high likelihood of intense sexual relationships. And we're going to read a little statement that she makes about her early years in rock and roll, and this is very conspicuously obvious in her life. Okay, so I have some other notes here. Venus opposition the Neptune-Pluto midpoint. So we see Venus is opposition the Neptune-Pluto midpoint, and Uranus is conjunct Neptune-Pluto. So this is going to drive this electric music. Oh, I see. The Venus-Uranus opposition is squeezed between Neptune and Pluto. So midpoints in harmonic charts are very, very important. We're going to see them show up in the charts of other musicians. We're doing research on baseball players, extremely important. So with this Venus-Uranus squeezed between Neptune and Pluto in the 11th harmonic, it means we're bringing in that magical intensity of Neptune-Pluto into the Venus-Uranus. This is going to fuel this pattern. So she's basically over the top. She's just way, way extreme dance, music, intensity, all over the place. With the addition of the Mars sextile and trine, and being squeezed between Neptune and Pluto, having this big Venus-Uranus opposition, and Venus-Uranus being this fundamental thing, which is the electricity, the spontaneity of the music. I have a note here. Venus-Uranus almost exact. So we're getting personal passion and intensity with the Mars here. So what does it amount to? Here's what Grace Slick says in June 2015. Actually, this is a statement she just made. I'm making this video on June 28th, 2015. So just a few weeks ago, she made a statement. She's now 75 years old. She's still alive. She says, at the time, we were all... So she's reminiscing about these times when she was this big rock star. At the time, we were all just kind of hanging out and doing what we did, making music, taking drugs, screwing each other, having a good time, because there's nothing quite as wonderful as being in your 20s and the 60s. There was no AIDS. Anything you got, a sexually transmitted disease, could be cured. I know because I got them. I went in the hospital for 4 days once, a bunch of IVs and stuff, and then you get out and you're okay. Oh my God. This is basically a pretty direct description of what we're seeing in the chart. She lived it, she was it, and she was comfortable with it. This was fine. You know, she gets sexually transmitted disease. She goes in the hospital. She gets cured, and she's out in her very poetic and sensitive way says that screwing each other. So there you have it. You know, she attracted this life. She built this life. She had the magic to be a lead singer, and she lived that life. So that's how she expressed it. That's what it was for her. Very straight, very clear. Again, we see it, and we see exactly the way it developed for her. Now, did it have to develop that particular way? No. She could have developed a different set of values. You know, other things could have happened. But this is the way she expressed it, and what it meant to her, and how it worked out in her life. Very clear, very straightforward. Okay, so that's Grace Slick. A very clear and straightforward story. The Venus-Uranus opposition in the natal chart sets the tone, but when we see what's going on in the 5th and 11th harmonic chart, it spells out the details of how this worked out for her, and you know, exactly how she expressed it. Okay, now, next we have Carole King in part 6. If you want to continue on with the next video in this series, I've got a link to it. Also, at the beginning of this video, I've got the link to part 1, which has links to all of the musicians that we are analyzing in this series of tutorial videos. Thank you very much, my friends, for listening. God bless. Namaste.